Member asked the question, why a tariff on coffee and bananas? I think the answer is obvious: to make our tax system more regressive, to pay for the big, bad, beautiful bills, cuts in taxes for billionaires, and to fund ICE. I used to head the largest sales tax agency in this country, and we knew the sales tax was regressive, but we knew it would be even more regressive if we imposed taxes, sales taxes on food. And that is what you do with a tariff on bananas and coffee. Mr. Secretary, we lived through the bailouts of 2008. When powerful men lose money, they now want a government bailout. Does the Treasury Department or the various components of the FMOC have the authority to bail out Bitcoin?
Could you please elaborate? What exactly does bail out Bitcoin
Okay,
mean,
could you instruct the banks of this country to buy more Bitcoin, or change banking regulations so that they are encouraged to do so in terms of the reserves that they're otherwise required to have?
Again, that within the context of asset diversification within banks, they could hold many assets.
They can, and there are different, do you have the authority to order banks to buy Bitcoin or to invest U.S. tax dollars in Bitcoin or Trump coin?
I am Secretary of the Treasury. I do not have the authority to do that, and as Chair of FSOC, I do not have that authority.
So we're not going to see our tax dollars invested in crypto assets?
Well, why would a private bank be your tax dollars, Congressman?
Excuse me, I'm now asking about the money of our taxpayers, which you manage as Secretary of the Treasury. Is it going to be deployed into crypto assets?
We are retaining seized Bitcoin.
That's not exactly taxpayer money. You collect a lot of taxes this month?
No, that is an asset of the U.S.
It's an asset of the U.S.
It was government.
Are you going to invest any?
And I will point out,
Mr. Secretary, reclaiming my time, are you going to invest?
The asset seizure, that $1 billion of Bitcoin was seized, $500 million was retained, and that $500 million has become over $15 billion.
The gentleman's time has expired. The gentleman from Oklahoma, the chair of our monetary.
If that made your blood boil, you need to see where this goes next, because it gets worse. Treasury just admitted on the record that seized government Bitcoin has ballooned from $500 million to over $15 billion. And when a sitting member of Congress asked the most basic follow-up question, what happens to that money, the Secretary of the Treasury couldn't give him a straight answer. This isn't a hypothetical. This is real public money, sitting in a black box, growing by billions, with no oversight structure explained to the American people, who are footing every other bill this administration hands them. That's exactly why this channel exists, to cut through the spin and show you the moments these hearings are built to bury under 5 hours of procedural noise. If you want the receipts instead of the talking points, hit subscribe right now. Like this video if you think Congress deserves a straight answer on where $15 billion in seized crypto is going. And share this with one person who still thinks these hearings are boring, because the moment you're about to watch is the opposite of boring. Every share puts pressure on these officers to actually answer follow-up questions instead of running out the clock. We are not doing this for views. We are doing this because accountability doesn't happen if nobody's watching. Stick around, because the next clip goes straight at the number games being played with the word inflation itself, and it's just as sharp. Subscribe, like, share, let's go.
A significant shortage of dollars to buy whether it is weapons or goods for the people, or to pad the Swiss bank accounts of the Iranian regime.
We've got to keep the pressure up on Iran, but also that pressure on the Burmese junta, please. Lastly, I'd be remiss if I did not thank you in public for your discussion of a desire to lower the deficits to 3% of the GDP. I've introduced, along with 14 of my colleagues from the Bipartisan Fiscal Forum that I chair with Congressman Scott Peters out of California, that urges the House to achieve this 3% goal goal by 2030, a tangible, achievable goal that is desperately needed, and we're building consensus here in the House. I know you and the administration take the ticking debt bomb seriously, and I hope that to continue this conversation with you. I don't know if you can, in 10 seconds,
I
address
look forward to
3%.
working with you on that, and I would note that the deficit to GDP, calendar year 2024, 7%, highest, not at war, not in recession. Calendar 2025, down to 5.4%.
Gentleman's
I
time
yield
has
back.
expired.
Thank you.
Chair recognizes the gentleman from California, our ranking member of our Capital Markets Subcommittee. Mr. Sherman, you're recognized for 5 minutes.
I want to agree with the gentleman from Michigan that we need to impose those sanctions on the Myanmar regime and protect, of course, the Rohingya minority to the extent we can. FSOC has to define what is systemic. I, for one, think that we shouldn't be focusing on the assets, but rather the liabilities. We didn't have a problem in 2008 because the banks had too many assets. We had a problem because they had too many liabilities. So I don't see how most...
Congressman, that's incorrect. Ben Bernanke, then Fed chair, said, could you please tell me what these assets are?
I'm going to reclaim my time. Regardless of that, I'm going to ask you whether you... not going to ask you to agree with me. I'm going to ask you to agree with your predecessor, Secretary Mnuchin. During the first Trump administration, that Secretary Mnuchin promulgated interpretive guidance that prioritized an activities-based approach to systemic risk regulation over an entity approach. Secretary Bessent, you have indicated that you want to kick off a review of FSOC's activities and processes. The FSOC Improvement Act, led by my colleague, Dr. Foster, which I've co-sponsored, as you know, would codify an activities-based approach to systemic risk regulation. Does the FSOC plan to revert to the 2019 guidance of the first Trump administration regarding a definition of a SIFI?
Yes, we prefer an activities-based approach rather than an institutional-based approach.
Thank you. I want to pick up on the ranking member's comments about whether tariffs cause inflation. You know, economists can say when the price of something goes up by 20%, that isn't inflation. It's a one-time price increase. But out in my district, when the price of something goes up by 20%, we call that unaffordability. And to say it's not inflation is sophistry. I'll point out that every time Democrats had and regulations that increased a company's cost, people in this room said that's going to cause inflation. Well, tariffs clearly have to be paid by companies, and if environmental costs are passed through, you can be sure tariffs are passed through. The ranking
What you just watched is two Treasury officials' worth of contradictions packed into 5 minutes of questioning. Start with the numbers. Brad Sherman, a CPA by training who chaired California's second-largest tax agency before coming to Congress, didn't need talking points to make Bessent squirm, he needed arithmetic. When Bessent tried to wave away tariff-driven price hikes as one-time increases, rather than inflation, Sherman's response cut through decades of Washington semantics. To a family in his district paying 20% more for groceries, the label doesn't matter. The check clears the same either way. That distinction isn't academic. It's the same distinction at the center of a much bigger credibility problem for Bessent this year. Reporting from the New Republic found that Bessent told this same committee he never wrote that tariffs are inflationary, despite a January 2024 letter to his own hedge fund investors stating almost that exact sentence. Fortune's coverage of the hearing noted the exchange escalated into a tense standoff, with ranking member Maxine Waters repeatedly cutting Bessent off, the same pattern of dodge first, concede later, that shows up again the moment Sherman asks about Bitcoin. And that Bitcoin exchange deserves its own scrutiny. Treasury is sitting on seized crypto that has grown 30-fold in value, from $500 million to more than $15 billion. And when asked directly whether that money could ever be steered toward buying more Bitcoin or into bank reserve requirements, Bessent's answer was carefully vague rather than categorically no. For an administration built on promises of transparency and Main Street's turn, A Treasury Secretary who can't give straight answers on tariffs, on inflation, or on $15 billion in seized digital assets is not a minor footnote. It's the story. Congress asked the right questions this week. The American people are still waiting on the real answers.